Yeah, that's just tough action on there. Like there's so many fake outs that right on that day you're looking at right there.
Hmm.
Yeah, that spike. Like it looked like it was gonna break highs. Like I was thinking about longing it then too, because I was like, oh, short's gonna get squeezed. But I was just looking at the action. I don't know if it's algorithms, like that's what people always say, but like that's just kind of what it looks like. Like it's just not really like natural action, and then you see as soon as it broke out there, just slammed. What's that like?
Yeah.
Basically $1.50 a share. Like
Yep.
that's just really hard action to trade. Like in my opinion, it's not very clean. You don't really have like good levels to base your decisions on. So all right, everybody, welcome back to This Week in Steady Trade. It's your three favorite hosts here, and we're just going to get into it. It's the first episode of October. So before we get into the charts and later on possibly what we're watching this week, how's October treating you? It's the 7th, we're first week of October. What do you always got?
Up to today, I was doing fine. Nothing. I guess. Well, we've only had a couple days. So the first week of October last week, our first half week, I did okay. Made like $2,000. Monday and Tuesday this week, I made a couple hundred. Nothing really played out. Just ended up being up a couple today. Unfortunately, as we'll go over with WWR and OPTT, I unfortunately did take two bigger losses. So I've pretty much given the majority of my month back. So I'm only up like a couple hundred on the month, which isn't a big deal. Like, again, I was only up a couple grand to begin with. So, and then again, I'm trying to, I'm not pushing size, but I'm trying to accept bigger risks, kind of really, become a bigger trader. So when the market does get hot again, I will progress into that very nicely. So I'm trying to find my groove in between that. So unfortunately, like I said, we'll talk about it, but a couple of difficult to plays today. And I unfortunately gave some profits back. That's all.
Jackaroo?
For me, I'm actually having a really nice bounce back so far. Been green pretty much, I think, every single day so far this month, and I'm up around 10 grand. So coming back, recovered almost half the losses from the last 2 weeks there in September. And just really happy how I went about it. Just started slowly sizing into the plays. And as I got my consistency back and I got my confidence back, sized up a little bit today and yesterday and got a few nice trades out of them. So pretty happy moving forward. And looks like there's some plays right around the corner as well.
Awesome, man. Yeah. So I'm kind of on the same boat as Kyle. The first week, Thursday and Friday, I think it was, of October, I didn't really trade. I was traveling a little bit. But this week, basically break even. I think I'm up like $800 on the month. And I've had some good plays, but today I took just basically nothing I did worked. It was just one of those days, and that's okay. It happens. Still green on the month. But the action today was a little tough. It just was super choppy on both, I think, the long and the short side. There just wasn't a ton of clean action, which, just makes it tough unless you're Jackaroo, I guess, but that's okay. So yeah, let's hop right into the charts, Kyle.
Okay. So my two toughest trades of the week was for me on WWR yesterday and today. I look, if you're in the Tim Challenge chat room, we've been talking about this ticker a lot just because it's been quite the hot runner from sub $2 now up into the 12s, 13s, and 14s. So going into yesterday's action, we had a huge parabolic pre-market. And then coming into the open, we had a huge squeeze out. And normally, what I've learned very recently, what I've seen a lot happen is if a stock usually really blows off or parabolics in the morning, and if it fails very hard, it tends to have a lot of fade after it. Sometimes some stocks almost fade all day long. And so I saw this happening. I did get a small short off around, I think, the high 13s after it had wicked pretty hard. And then, of course, I was going to cut it if it got back over 1450, but it didn't. It pulled. And so I was like, great. Like, this is a, huge, kind of blow off spike after already, a second time after blowing off in pre-market. Like, I'm going to, as long as we don't really come back, I'm going to keep swinging, or not keep swinging, keep fading this down. And hopefully this will close really weak. And then I can potentially swing for like a first red day. Like, that was like the big, mastermind picture in my head. And we were looking good, right? Like we're bouncing a little bit, but we keep going lower. And finally we get to the low 9s. And I do recognize that the prior day, there was support around the low 9s, like 9.10, 9.15-ish. And so I was prepared to cover a little bit if we got there. And so as we got closer, I did take off like a 5th size and had a couple orders a little bit lower to try to get more off. But we never went lower. And unfortunately, this uptick really just started this squeeze. So I went from, up over $2,000 unrealized into a loser. Like I ended up losing like $200 on this ticker today, or on this day. And that was super frustrating because part of me thinks maybe I was being too greedy, but another part of me thinks like, no, I traded exactly how I should have. I'm not going to, maybe I should have cut it over this high here when it makes it this perk. But I mean, what's to say I shouldn't have cut it over this high then, or this high, maybe I just struggle with patient plays, and why me and Jack, if you know our styles, we usually most of our money's made in the first hour to 2 hours anyway. So maybe that was a mistake of mine. I really can't identify a particular mistake on this ticker, other than the fact that I just had a trade plan and didn't take as much off, and it squeezed back, and I just unfortunately gave back all my profits, which really sucks. But it just kind of shows what kind of ticker we're dealing with when it comes to WWR. And then something similar happened today again. It happened twice. So I guess again, no mistakes, but just the thesis I'm trying to have for this ticker and have it really play. It's very frustrating on my end, So coming into today, I did get small short pre-market. We squeezed, so I cut it for like -$400 or $500. Out the gate, we go red for the first time. So I said, great, this is backside. Let me get short on a bounce. Because I would have gotten short here if I could have, but I didn't get filled. So I wanted to look for a bounce. Got short into this bounce here around 937. And, we fade. We start fading. We have to take one more test to red green. We fail again. So I'm like, great, this is going to hopefully make new lows, go to sub 10, and I'll cover down there. And we don't. We just keep holding and holding, and then we go back green. And at that point, this reminds me exactly of yesterday, where it's like, I was being patient. It was working so well. And then I got over patient. It came back. So I cut it again for, like I lost about 1,000. Let's see. Yeah, about 1,000 on this ticker today. Very frustrating. And then for a third time's the charm, I reshorted again after this sideways action. Again, it faded. Like every time I've been short, it starts working in my favor. But the thesis I have is like, I want to see this play out, and I want to see it really go where I think it's going to go. And it just doesn't. It continually supports itself. And we came back green again, so I cut it another time for another like $100 loss. As for what I'm going to do now, I naturally want to like just leave it alone. I know eventually it's going to die, and I'm probably not going to be there, but it just sucks. Like you could say I've been over patient on it, but from a stock to go, under $2 to 12, when I'm looking for the reverse red day, I'm not looking for only $1 a share pullback. Like this thing should pull back, 15, 20, 30%, for being so up. And I wanted to see that play out. And so it just didn't. And so, it sucks to take these losses that I'm taking on it, but it just is what it is. And I'll just accept it and learn from it and move on to the next one.
Yeah, that's just tough action on there. Like there's so many fake outs right on that day you're looking at right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that spike. Like it looked like it was going to break highs. Like I was thinking about longing it then too, because I was like, oh, short's going to get squeezed. But I was just looking at the action. I don't know if it's algorithms, like that's what people always say, but like that's just kind of what it looks like. Like it's just not really like natural action. And then it's like you see as soon as it broke out there, just slammed. What's that, like basically $1.50 a share? Like,
yep,
that's just really hard action to trade. Like in my opinion, it's not very clean. You don't really have like good levels to base your decisions on. So,
yep, I agree.
WWR is a blacklister for me too on the long side. So don't like it.
And now looking after hours, it's kind of fading. It's probably, eventually a red day is coming, but after screwing it up so many times for me, I have to almost just, wave the white flag and just let it go on my end.
Yeah.
So
makes sense. Yeah. So let's do OPTT. That's the one I've been trading. Basically traded the last 2 days. Yesterday was my better trade on it. But it's just been running really nice, really good volume, over 100 million shares for 3 days in a row now. But like it's like this series of runners are so different than the runners we've seen pretty much the rest of the year. Like, yeah, it's great we have runners, but and the volume's even great on them too. It's just I found them much harder to trade. Maybe that's just a me thing, but like if you look at the action, like support and resistance, it just like I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but like it just will blow through it. You can see yesterday on OPTT, it had that hard crack right around 3 o'clock and then continued and gapped up nicely. My best trade on it though was that morning through the midday. You can see like there's a very nice ABCD pattern. And that's like probably one of my favorite patterns. I alerted it in the small cap rockets room and I just got out into that like midday spike right into 1 o'clock there. And then it had like its first hard pull at like 105 or something. That's the time Eastern. And that's where I got out because since like June, like if this was June and like this would have gone up $1 or $2 a share, but since June, it's like rare that these even get above high a day. So the fact that this was above high a day, I started locking it in anytime I saw weakness, which ended up being the right decision. And then I didn't trade it the rest of the day, but we gapped up today, which was awesome to see. And right out of the gate, there's just like same type of action we were seeing on WWR. It like spiked in the first minute. Not sure why, but I got in on that spike over like, yeah, like 325, I think was my entry. And I was chased it a little bit, but I was like, this is strong. And then 45 seconds later, it just like slams back down all the way back sub 3. So that was my first trade of the day and took a little bit of a loss there. And then it started grinding back up and we had this nice series of higher lows. And my thought process here was short sellers are interested in this because it failed the morning spike and now we got a series of higher lows. So I thought we'd see a squeeze out, like a really hard rip. It just kept grinding and grinding. And then we got through that morning spike high and just no follow through. So after we pulled back and after the next lower high, I just got out for a decent trade there. And then I tried to play it again. This is where like I was green on the day at this point, and I was like, oh, like I think OPTT, like same thesis. I still thought shorts were in trouble on it, even though we had, there was clearly a trend reversal there. So I tried to play it off VWAP, and as soon as it broke below VWAP, I cut again. Yeah, this has been my main focus. But again, the action's just tough. Like the stock basically, like if you're looking at it now in hindsight, it opened and closed at nearly the same spot. Like there's just no range. Like it's just a tough one to trade. It didn't trend really good in either direction. It was just pretty choppy.
I agree.
Yeah. Jackaroo, what we got?
LKNCY, great little OTC here. Been a phenomenal breakout over that double top high that it set in September at the start and towards the end of the month. Very beautiful 4 green day runs so far. It's pretty much been my main trader of this week. And if you go into the intraday, I will show you guys how I've been trading it. So to start, when it broke out, it kind of broke out, but it failed into the close huge one day. And that day I was just break even on it. And unfortunately that happens. And it kind of ruined my thought process on it a little bit because I knew that this stock had the potential to do the move that it just did right now, just because of how technically appealing it set up. It kind of reminded me of MRMD when it had the double top breakout over 4 and it ran to 556 or something. It was very similar to those daily candlesticks. So the next day it was a choppy breakout, but I did end up overnighting some there, and that was Friday, and then got out too early into the morning spike up into the 360s, 370s was maybe my best sell. And then it kept grinding up and took a couple losses shorting it that day, where I was short around the 4s, and then as you can see where it perked there midday, just ended up squeezing me out over that 4 like kind of 10-ish area, and then it rolled over to VWAP, which was my cover target. So that was a little bit frustrating of a trade. And then left it alone for the rest of the day that day. And then from there, yesterday, plan was to buy it on a gap up And that's what I did. Ended up buying some shares on the gap up when it held the previous day's high. Got a nice morning spike there. And this time my approach of selling into the morning spike worked. So I took, that 20 cents right there from 420 to 440. So being conservative that time worked, because then it did pull very hard and probably would have shaken me out there. So happy with that trade. And then later in the day, right around that 2 p.m., had a really nice OT swizzle pattern, if you guys are familiar with that. And bought that on the high day break right there on the swizzle break, got long, and then sold out into the 3.6s and 3.7s into that spike. And that was a nice trade. I kept a couple shares on and kind of sold once the market started failing. It seemed like when the SPY tanked yesterday on that negative virus news, it brought down all the stocks. Even OTCs were tanking into the close. MMEDF, that was a great example of one where it was super clean and then just tanked in the close. LK, same thing. And unfortunately, lost a little bit of the rest of my position there, but still decent. And then today, I didn't play it long too much. I took a couple of small stabs on it around that swizzle level again from today. If you can look there midday where the volume came in, took a stab there, but just ended up selling it for break even because it was sideways and grindy and choppy. And then the play on it today was the parabolic short, where you can see at the close there today, it just started going absolutely parabolic from 560 into the sixes. So when it goes that parabolic without really a real pullback, I know that I'm looking for a turn. I'm trying to time a turn for a 20, 30 cent pullback, which is great risk to reward if you get near that top, same as a dip buy. So it was the end of the day, which put a kind of a monkey wrench in it. And that kind of screwed up my thought process a little bit. So I did end up getting short in the sixes. And right when it pulled down immediately to the 590s, I was up 15 cents or so. Just took it off there right in the 590s just because there wasn't that much time in the day left. And then it ended up bouncing a little bit and then just absolutely tanked right into the close. So I did end up missing out on a potential 30-cent gain 30 cents more. So definitely didn't take the meat of the move, only a third of the pullback. A little disappointed with that, but like I said, it was the weird time of day. So I'm just happy that I got out with a good trade on it. And that's basically it for LK.
Sweet. All right, everyone. So we're going to talk about what stocks we're watching going into tomorrow and the rest of the week. However, if you're watching this on YouTube, we are only posting our stocks on Apple Podcasts. We put a link in the description below, so make sure you check it out. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. And this segment is strictly there. We'll go in detail over what we're watching, how we're watching it, and how we plan to trade these stocks. So make sure you check it out. But if you're just on YouTube, that concludes this episode for today. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.